Hey everybody, my name is HELMETFIRE, and today I want to talk about loot in Deadrop. But before we get into that, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on future Deadrop content. Now, let's jump right into it. Deadrop's primary mode, the vertical extraction shooter mode, is the highlight of what they're aiming for their new revolutionary experience in the first-person shooter genre. And as such, it's going to be a hybrid between Battle Royale, extraction shooter, and vertical map gameplay, to the likes of which we really haven't seen before. But being as this is going to be an extraction shooter, the number one thing that I'm looking forward to is the loot. Right now in Deadrop, the loot is pretty minimal, and we are in a pre-alpha state, so this is to be expected. It's a developing title, but I am curious on the future of loot and how it's going to act in Deadrop. In recent interviews with Rob Bowling, the studio head at Midnight Society, and a few AMAs he's done in recent days, he has confirmed that loot is very important to Midnight Society and for Deadrop. Specifically, one thing I'm looking forward to is rarities and abundance. The biggest thing we want in an extraction shooter is something to extract with. What good is an extraction shooter if there's really not a lot of loot to be had? Now again, this is a pre-alpha, this is a developing title, so again, I must emphasize that while the loot in the game is pretty simple right now, this is going to be expanded upon greatly. What I want to talk about today is ideas that I have that I think could really make this game shine. The number one thing I would introduce right off the bat is rarities. Anything from common, rare, epic, legendary, exotic, and so on. I think rarities are going to be one of the biggest things that will help Deadrop's loot really shine. There's been so many times where Rob has quoted his conversations with Dr. Disrespect talking about the high stakes nature of an extraction mode and what that could look like if you had a very high value item that was up for risk. The scenario goes, what if you had an item that was worth $100,000 and you were trying to extract successfully with that item? What would that look like? It would be very entertaining to watch. The higher the stakes, the more exciting it can get. Now, this point has been proven true time and time again in other scenarios and other games, but how do we get there? Now, the NFT conversation comes up a lot, and this video is not going to cover too much about that. That's a separate video. But whether an item is found in the world or, discovered on a player or however it works, if that item is deemed rare, or the more rare that it is deemed, the more high stakes the situation becomes, and the more people can get interested in watching that exchange. This drives us back to the question of how loot is going to be implemented in the game versus the marketplace. In recent days, there's been hot topic discussions about loot and microtransactions in Deadrop. Deadrop will be a free-to-play title in the future when it is officially released. But even in early access right now, we're in these infancy stages of how they want to monetize the game, and those discussions are happening within the community and the development team. As a community member, I can say it is my personal hope, which is also the hope of many in the community, that Deadrop leans away from pay-to-play or pay-to-win mechanics. Thus far, it doesn't really seem like there's too much of that. There are some controversies with the first iteration of their loot box mechanic, and those are being worked out, and I believe, based on what's been said so far by the development team, that we're going to be moving in a positive direction for that. I'll make a video following up on that topic later on. But back to the loot. So my idea is there should be a distinction between things that you would purchase on a marketplace and items that you would find in the world. In my idea scenario, I think that having earnables or things that you find in the world, those should be the most valuable items. And if you add rarities into the mix, you can start to see where this makes a little bit more sense. If I find an assault rifle in the world and it's of common quality, well, that shouldn't be worth too much, and no one's going to really miss it if they lose it, if they die and, their player bag gets looted. But if I run into a situation where I find this really high-end exotic item behind a crate with 6 attachments and a cool skin, at that point, you really want to get out and extract successfully, and the stakes will never be higher in that scenario. So it's going to be on you to really try to make it out of there. Conversely, if you're a player who killed somebody and you open their player bag and notice said exotic item, again, you're going to be really excited and really nervous at the same time, because your goal now has changed completely. Maybe you walked into the match trying to eliminate the whole lobby battle royale style to get that dead drop for any potential loot that could drop from that, but now you've just collected an exotic of epic proportions, and now the tables have turned completely. To accomplish the developers' goals of a high stakes situation, I think adding rarity loot in the world that is findable is probably the best case scenario. If you have a lot of loot in the world to incentivize players to go into that mode and take the risk, I think you create those scenarios pretty easily. So the second thing I want to bring up about loot is the marketplace. Now, this is something that the developers have talked about coming in the future, and we don't know yet how that's going to take place or what form it's going to take. There is still the NFT discussion. Are those items going to be on chain or some other means of procuring them? Are those items going to be owned by the player officially, and do they require them to be an NFT or not? These are all great questions that have still yet to be answered, but nonetheless, it is a direction they want to go. Midnight Society has talked extensively about having a marketplace for cosmetics and microtransactions, and this is one area I think they could really make a lot of money in a very pro-consumer way. So my idea for the marketplace would be very, very simple and straightforward. Let's not do any loot boxes, or at least loot boxes that you pay for. You know, we don't want to turn into a CSGO or gambling situation, or a situation similar to that that would invite controversy. Instead, make it very simple. Just put up the items that you want to sell up for sale as is for a set price, and people can choose whether or not to buy them. I think this is the most straightforward, transparent way to do it, and it shows people exactly what they're getting and how much it will cost. When you talk about FOMO with microtransactions, these come in a lot of different forms depending on the game that's out there. A lot of games will have a seasonal battle pass or something that is time limited. Now, I fully expect Deadrop to do this also. There have been talks already from the development team that shows that yes, they will have battle passes. Maybe 100 tiers, I think, was what was discussed, but none of this is set in stone yet, and we don't know yet if those items will expire or not. The assumption right now is that they wouldn't expire. Robert Bowling has gone on to say in his AMAs that their intent is to not FOMO you out of any items. I'm not personally against battle passes at all. Again, I think they should take the Halo Infinite approach, where when you buy a season pass, you can take your time to unlock those cosmetics and they never expire. I personally do not believe that any items that are purchased in a marketplace should ever be lost, have the ability to be lost, or losing the license of ownership on your account for those items in any way. Whether it's a high stakes mode or not, if you're paying for a cosmetic, you should never lose it. This is just my personal take, but I do know that it's something that's echoed in the community. Now, this next one is a little bit controversial, maybe up for discussion, but I wanted to propose this and I want to get your feedback on this. So let me know in the comments what you think about this next one. When I'm thinking about the video game industry and how other companies have monetized their games with microtransactions and cosmetics and skin packs and battle passes and things like that, the common theme seems to be that they've just gotten more and more expensive. I think AAA gaming companies have been emboldened by the customer's purchasing power. What I mean by that is, it's very common to see skin packs be $20 and $25 and sometimes $30 for these cosmetics and microtransactions, which is on top of an already $60 and nowadays $70 price tag for a full price game. Deadrop will be a free-to-play game when it releases. However, this isn't stopping them from charging whatever they want for said microtransactions. Midnight Society at this time has not made any indication as to what the pricing structure will be for this. These types of things are still quite down the road for their development roadmap. But here's my idea and what I want your feedback on. I think that if Midnight Society's goal was to make money as a AAA studio with microtransactions, I think one of the easiest way to do this is to lower the barrier of entry while drawing in more players. And if it were me, this is just me, Joe Schmo YouTuber guy who doesn't run a business at all, so obviously take my advice here with a grain of salt. But I would never charge more than $15 US for anything. And I would make most of my bundles or items between $5 and $10 US. I think that this could lower the barrier of entry for a lot of players. I also think it could change the industry's practices, which can be very anti-consumer at points. And I think Midnight Society would stand to make a lot more money with those price points. Imagine if you logged into Fortnite right now and some of your most favorite skins were between $7 and $10 US. How many more skins would you be willing to buy personally at these price points? Or another example would be Diablo 4. Some of those cosmetic packs are $20 US. This is on top of a $70 price tag for the base game, not to mention any pre-ordering or Premier Deluxe editions that you may have paid for. Midnight Society is innovating in a lot of interesting ways with their transparent and open development. I think personally that this is another area that they could innovate in, really pushing the industry in a different direction by lowering their price points on their cosmetics that they do sell, perhaps offering more of them, and bringing in more players as a result. Now, this is just a theory from, again, an unqualified YouTuber, so take that with a grain of salt, but the point of this is to initiate discussion. I want to hear what you think about these ideas. What do you think about rarity loot in the world that you could find and extract with? What do you think about a marketplace that would sell cosmetics straight up, no strings attached, this is what you get and this is how much? And lastly, what do you think about Midnight Society potentially offering cosmetics and microtransactions at or below $15 US? Do you think that these are changes that would work well in a new AAA shooter? Again, I want to hear from you in the comments on these discussions. I like to read the comments and interact with you all in the community. And other than that, that's all I have for today's video. Remember, drop a like on the video. It helps me out a ton. We're chasing down 1K subs on YouTube. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any future Deadrop content. My name's HELMETFIRE. I appreciate you all for being here, and we'll see you in the tower. Have a good one.